Chelsea, despite experiencing a rather large exodus in the summer, are still a club that has too many players that either aren't good enough or have superior alternatives that can be utilised in their place. So which players should Chelsea sell? Well, let's look into it. Here are 5 players that, in my opinion, Chelsea should be looking to sell. Number 1. Malang Sarr. Yes, you heard me correctly. Malang Sarr is still a Chelsea player. The 24-year-old French defender signed for the Blues on a free transfer back in August of 2020 and only ever played one full season of football at Chelsea, in which he played 22 games for a total of 1,608 minutes, with most of these performances not considered to be up to the standard to be of Chelsea quality. The season following this, he endured a failed loan stint at French club Monaco, with him returning to West London. He has managed to retain his place as a Chelsea player to many people's surprise, however, with him not even being given a squad number, as well as manager Mauricio Pochettino not even knowing who he was when he asked about him in a press conference. It would be harsh to call Sarr a flop, as he signed for next to nothing and has barely featured for the Blues, but he is undoubtedly a player that has no place at Chelsea now or in the near future. With his lack of presence in the Chelsea squad, we would be lucky to receive even €4 million for him, which in my opinion is most likely to come from either a club back in France or a club in Turkey. Number 2. Marc Cucurella. Having signed for Chelsea back in the summer of 2022, Marc Cucurella has had a turbulent start to his Chelsea career. Signing from Brighton for a massive fee of €65 million, it's safe to say that the Spaniard has failed to live up to his wealthy price tag. Most of his first season at Chelsea was mired by lacklustre performances, often costing the side games with his subpar efforts. Even under his old manager Graham Potter, he failed to show even glimpses of the player that Chelsea played for. Under Mauricio Pochettino, it looked like Cucurella was going to turn his fortunes around, putting in spectacular performances in games such as Fulham, Tottenham, and most notably Chelsea's home game against Arsenal, where Bukayo Saka had a very difficult time dealing with the Spaniard's tenacity. However, since those games, every time Cucurella has featured for Chelsea, he has looked poor, and I think it would be best for Chelsea to cut their losses and move Cucurella on. There is clearly talent behind his large amount of hair, so Chelsea would still be able to fetch a reasonable fee of €30 to €40 million for him, but with this still being a far cry from what we paid for the left back to begin with. Number 3. Armando Broja. In truth, Armando Broja is probably the most unfortunate inclusion on this list. Being one of Chelsea's own, coming from the youth academy, Broja was highly rated by members of the Chelsea faithful. However, the Albanian striker suffered a horrible ACL injury just over a year ago at the time of writing, completely derailing his progress. Having returned to the squad in early October, he seemingly failed to return to the levels that we were seeing from him before his injury, only managing 2 goal contributions in 12 appearances for the club. This will be a rather unfortunate end to Broja's Chelsea career, as being one of our own, I doubt he would feel that positive about leaving his boyhood club. That being said, Chelsea would probably be looking for a fee of around €40 million, with multiple clubs rumoured to be interested in securing the Albanian services, including West Ham and Italian side AC Milan. Number 4. Raheem Sterling. This may very well be the most controversial pick on this list. Raheem Sterling has at times this season been Chelsea's best and most potent attacking threat. The 27-year-old arrived at Chelsea in the summer of 2022 from champions Manchester City for around a fee of €56 million. To the Englishman's credit, there have been multiple games in this and last season where we have seen what he is truly capable of, including last season's home games to Leicester and Nottingham Forest, as well as this season against the likes of West Ham, Luton Town, Burnley, and most notably his old club Manchester City, in which he had his international teammate Kyle Walker on skates. But while he has had his standout moments, these have also been accompanied by multiple woeful appearances, with him often failing to score in situations that should be easy for a player of his experience, as well as failing to complete adequate passes that could have very easily led to a goal. He has also developed a nasty habit of diving, which often results in him being booked for simulation, which has not been helped by Chelsea's already poor disciplinary record. It is also worth noting that Sterling is the club's highest paid player, receiving £325,000 a week. In my opinion, his inconsistent performances have not warranted that amount of money, and considering the performances of the likes of Mykhailo Mudryk, Noni Madueke and Cole Palmer, younger players that have been outperforming him for less money, I would imagine we could afford to part ways with the English winger. Being still only 29 years old, as well as an experienced Premier League player, Chelsea could look to receive around 40 to 50 million euros for his services, recuperating a large amount of the fee paid for him. Number 5. Romelu Lukaku. It baffles the mind to think that after all we have been put through with Romelu Lukaku's tenure at Chelsea, that he is still a part of the club. Signing in the summer of 2021 following Chelsea's triumphant victory in the Champions League final, the Belgian striker made the move from Italian giants Inter Milan to West London for an astronomical fee of €113 million, which was Chelsea's record signing at the time. He was brought in with the idea that he would be the final piece in the puzzle for Chelsea, that key centre forward that would be there to score all of the goals for Chelsea, making them one of the most formidable teams in Europe. However, this would not be the case, as Lukaku would only score 15 goals in 44 games for the club in all competitions, failing to find the net altogether in 30 of those games. The final nail in the coffin for his Chelsea career, and what would ultimately lead to him becoming one of the most despised figures among the club, was when he conducted his behind-doors interview with Sky Italia, stating that he wished to return to Inter Milan one day, as well as his displeasure with manager Thomas Tuchel. This would lead to him seeking an exit in the following summer's transfer window, in which he secured a loan back to his old club Inter Milan, which also proceeded to end in disaster, as he blocked several shots from his own team in Champions League final, and after Inter refused to pay Chelsea's asking price, began talks with Inter's rivals Juventus. The fans, however, heavily protested this idea, and so a deal was agreed with AS Roma to take him on a season-long loan. It is beyond imperative that the club finally rids us of his presence, as it has been undoubtedly one of, if not the worst transfer in the history of Chelsea. Before his loan to Roma, Lukaku signed a deal in which he would reduce his wages in order to leave, and that it was rumoured there would be some sort of release clause inserted into the deal that will allow any club to acquire his services should they meet the fee. This fee was rumoured to be around the price of €40 million, a grand fall from that paid for the Belgian centre-forward, but I think most Chelsea fans would agree that they would just prefer to see the back of our disgraced striker once and for all. Those were my picks for 5 Chelsea players that should be sold. I'd like to know which players you think should be sold, so tell me in the comments. Until next time, up the Chels.